is the Conrad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
For 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is February 26th, 2023, and this is episode 264 of the Workshop Podcast. So in just a minute, we're going to bring Mr. Peoples back on. We had so much fun after the last conversation. I was stoked, excited to chat with Chuck because he does a service where he helps create and customize personalized IFACs, first aids, all of that. So I thought I have one of two options. The first is I will try to schedule a call with Chuck, and I'll probably keep putting it down on my to-do list because I won't get around to doing it, or I'll turn it into a live stream. We'll have Chuck come on. We'll go through the process, and it'll force me to have this conversation because, to be absolutely honest, I have been slack in any of my mobile and business first aid stuff. So with that, guys, let's unveil the peoples of the evening. Hey, Mr. Chuck, how are you, sir?
Good, Tim. How are you?
Good. I know, we've had a couple conversations in real life, but yeah, you're a dude that I consider a friend at this point, and I love talking to you. So it's good to have you on.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I've been looking forward to this, and it's always great to talk to you.
Like I said, I'm bad for this. You know, as soon as we hung up with the show the last time, I was like, I really got to do this first aid thing with Chuck. But I knew if I just kept putting it in my agenda, I would. I wouldn't reach out to you. I'd keep thinking, I better do it. But 1,000 things would come up. So I thought, you know what? What better way than to turn it into a show so we can figure it out, you know?
Absolutely.
So you want to real quick, I mean, most people know you, but you can introduce yourself again, and we'll dive right in.
Yeah, my name's Chuck Peoples. I own a company called Appalachian Medical Solutions. I've been a paramedic for about 28 years. I do medical training for the everyday person. I do tactical trauma things, tactical medicine, along with what I like to call homestead medicine. It's prolonged care. You know, what do you do after you stop the bleed? After you've done that, you know, after you've taken care of the first 5 minutes, what are you going to do if you have to take care of a patient for 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks? And knowing some of those things on what to do, how to do it, and having that knowledge and that skill set to be able to do it. And those are some of the classes that I teach. And I also do, a medical equipment. But one of the things that I'm doing that's a little different is I do a customized medical kit. So you call me for a consultation, and we have a conversation, and I figure out what you want, what you need, what you're going to use it for, and we put something together for you that's going to suit your needs. That's customized instead of just a canned kit that already has components in it, because you might need 75%, but maybe the other 25 doesn't fit your needs. So I put together a kit that all the components in it will fit your needs for everything you need, whether it's family members, a vehicle med kit, whatever you're going to use it for. So that way you're properly prepared, and that it's going to be based on your skill set. And if you don't have the skill set, we'll arrange something and we'll get you taught, whether it's me or, some of the other people that are out there that teach that I'm aware of. We'll get you hooked up for it.
I'm gonna before we jump into building, what, in your opinion, what's more important, skills or supplies?
Skills, absolutely. Training, because you can have all the supplies in the world. If you don't know how to use them, they're not going to do you anything. They're no good. It's just like, I always go back to firearms. You can have all the firearms in the world. It's a tool, but if you don't know how to use a tool, just like as you do, you've got a ton of tools, right? But you have to know how to use them, to apply them and use them properly. Goes the same thing with medical training. And a lot of people, that's one of their preps, one of their preparations that sometimes they let go to the side. They'll stack the food, they'll stack the ammo, they'll do even weapons training and things. But a lot of times medical, they let go to the wayside because they think, well, I've got an IFAC. I took a stop the bleed class for an hour. I know how to use a tourniquet. That's great, but there's a lot more things that can happen, and it's a perishable skill set also. If you're not using it, you're not doing it, you're not familiar with it, you're going to lose it. And medical is going to be something that most likely you're probably going to have to use before you have to use a firearm. You're more likely to have a medical incident of some sort of trauma incident than have to use your firearm.
Since you were on last, I actually just redid my Red Cross first aid, which was great. We had to do it for the daycare. And, I would say in my adult life, it's probably my 4th or 5th time taking that course. And I learned a bunch of stuff again, every single time and it's all kind of simple, generic, easy stuff. But once again, I learned again.
I've taken medical classes. I've done this 28 years, and I have to recertify my paramedic certifications, licensure, whatever you want to call it, every few years. And a lot of this courses you have to take again and again. But I've taken a lot of these courses, and even courses I didn't have to take over, I've taken over again over the years from different instructors, because you learn something new, and it might be that little nugget of information that makes it all worth it that you didn't have before, and it'll tie something else or a bigger picture together. So I think you should never stop learning, and especially medicine. Medicine is ever evolving. It's changing, new technology, new things. I mean, things that we used to do when I started, tourniquets were last resort. Now they're first resort. They're first line treatment. So a lot of things have changes over the years. So you have to stay up on it, and I think it's very important. I'll never, ever, ever say I'm an expert. I'll never say, oh, I've learned enough, because I never will. You can always learn new skills. And through my career, it's kind of what I did. I wasn't happy just being a paramedic. I wanted to go farther and farther and farther. And then even in a different setting of just your traditional EMS, I've worked in austere environments and different types of EMS that a lot of people aren't familiar with. And I've learned tremendously from that. Especially the last 8 years that I've done this is just been the different types of EMS has just been, it's been a whole new world of education. I've learned so much from great practitioners and from treating patients in different environments and everything else.
Is that your son, Chase?
Yeah, I might know him. Yeah, that's
Hey, Chase. Yes. So I was going to say, if we have two persons, that makes peoples, right?
That's right. You got it. Yeah, that's the only way we can be plural. I had to reproduce.
So, okay, one more question then. Is a $10, $9.99 Walmart special first aid kit better than nothing? Or
anything's better than nothing. But what are you really preparing for? And that $9.99 Walmart canned first aid kit is probably going to be about 30 Band-Aids, maybe a roll of gauze, some Bactritration or triple antibiotic ointment, and maybe some aspirin. So it's going to be it's a boo-boo kit, and that's what it is, which is important. And guess what? You're going to use Band-Aids more than anything else, because that's what you do. Everybody's, and it's the truth.
Oh yeah,
you're not going to have enough Band-Aids. You should have it, but you need more, and you need to be prepared for more. And if you look at what our healthcare system is today, as compared to even 5 years ago, even before the mess of the big C and all that, look what it's done. And we have a national healthcare shortage of not only nurses, doctors in a hospital setting, but there is a huge shortage in EMS right now around the world. So your response times are now longer, or you may not get anybody. And then when I don't teach for the zombie apocalypse or the world ending, which, good possibility the way things are looking, and, our lives are going to change, but it's also disasters. the big snowstorms, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the things like that. I've been to those. I've responded to those where healthcare was knocked out. Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. It knocked out. There was no electricity on the island, period. There was no functioning healthcare. So, and it was weeks before any type of a semblance of things got like that. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And it's not just trauma. What are you going to do if somebody's sick? And then you've got to worry about things like when you do have a breakdown in the system, you need to worry about sanitation, water safety, food safety, all those things. And all of those bring a whole host of problems that we're not used to because of our modern conveniences of more illness that could be born, more foodborne illness, more waterborne illness, more sanitation-borne illness. So all of those things, it's important to have that broad-based knowledge on how to, because those are things you're going to deal with medically, believe it or not.
It's funny you mention that because, we always talk about being armed, so that we can be our own first responder, because we always come up with the idea that police are only there to respond after something happens, right? But then I was just thinking whether it's even home maintenance is one of these things where I always talk about the art of preparedness when help isn't around the corner. And that is a form of being your own first responder, being able to do that. But like you said, if you're in a place like even Hurricane Katrina, I'll bet there were people who were a week before they could get proper health care, I'm thinking.
There were weeks, there were people trapped in their homes in flooded waters, in their attics for 10 days.
Wow.
So you can imagine dehydrated, lack of food, energy, the heat, just heat illness alone killed people. It killed people. So if you're not prepared for these things, and how do you treat it? And it's also preventable too. There's a lot of things that having that basis of a medical knowledge, you can prevent a lot of problems before they happen, especially when you're in a situation where maybe your medical help, your conventional medical care is not around the corner, or it's not an ambulance right away. Because what if your ambulance can't get to you? What if you have a freak snowstorm or you have flooding and they can't get to you and it washes out roads? And where you're at, you may get dumped on 2 feet of snow. Now they're used to that and they have problems, but I'm sure it delays emergency response. And there's areas where they just can't get to.
We had ice last year that was unheard of for us, that basically made, 48 to 72 hours you couldn't come or go from our town.
Well, you look at, like, we both know Porterhouse, Eric. Look what happened to his homestead this past week. They had all that snow and ice that they're not used to it. Those emergency services aren't used to doing that. They don't have the equipment to get to people. And just his road alone, he showed, is blocked. How are you going to get to? How are you going to get out? How are they going to get in? So you've got to be prepared. And not only for the trauma stuff. Yes, if you carry a weapon, you're going to be prepared. Yes, have an IFAK. Have a tourniquet. You should have a tourniquet with you. This is my tourniquet that I took out of my pocket before. I carry this every day. Ed's on here from the Iridian Group. He'll tell you the same thing. There's another great absolute encyclopedia of knowledge. Every post, everything Ed does, if he speaks, I'm listening. He's just a wonderful, amazing resource, but he'll tell you it's not just the trauma stuff. You have to be prepared and have that broad-based knowledge of everything on what to do. And you have to have that plan A, B, and C ready to go, because your plan A may be to call 911, but what if there isn't a 911? What are you going to do then?
You have response time, right? I mean, best case scenario, where I live, if it's something serious, they send out STARS, which is a, air response, and that can take an hour or more, And
hopefully you have weather.
Right. There's the other thing. True. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So if you don't have weather, that pilot goes, nope.
Yep.
Or even one of the air crew, because it's not just the pilot, the flight medic, the flight nurse, whoever, anybody on the crew can say, no, I don't feel comfortable. That flight's not going. It's all or none.
Right.
So
never thought of that.
Yeah. So you've got all of those challenges now. And now look, you're going to emergency rooms where it's 12, 20 hour waits. And some people can't get to it, and you're not getting it. And there's people dropping dead in emergency rooms, in a waiting room. So what do you think a little bit more of a hiccup or a little bit more of a stressor on a hospital system would do? It could shut it down. Look, when we look back over the last few years, there were hospitals who were going, no, we're not taking anybody. We're done. We're full. We don't have the staff. We don't have the room. So what do you do if that is your only hospital and your next hospital is, and you can't get transport there? What are you going to do? And to me, if you're an adult and if you haven't opened your eyes to see what's going on in these times, you need to be prepared, have the equipment, but having all the equipment in the world's great. You got to have the skill set. Training is the most important thing. Absolutely. To have the skill set so you can use all that great equipment.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. So yeah, I'm just going to shout out right quick. We got two crazy Canucks in here, Chris Dixon of the Dixon Way and Ed from the Iridium Group, both high quality guys that put out good content. So check them both out. And then sneaking in the back door here, we got Jason from Kentucky Sustainable Living. Good to see you here, brother, too. So
yeah, and Jason's another example of what his group's doing and what his group in Kentucky is doing. I went down there and taught a class to members of their group, and it was an excellent class. And they were, they were great. And it wasn't a tactical class; it was a practical class. And yes, do you need to have that tactical knowledge? But some of this is more practical than tactical, and you need to know these things of the prolonged care. And it can be things from as simple as properly taking a pulse and a blood pressure, how to use a stethoscope. A stethoscope is a tool. There's proper ways to use it and all the different ways you can use it. And teaching people those things, and that's knowledge you need to have. You can go out right now and buy a stethoscope, order one from Amazon, buy it anywhere. But do you know how to use it? Do you know how to use a blood pressure cuff? You can get a pulse ox. It gives you numbers. What does that number really mean? And how is it working, and how does that piece of equipment work? So it's having that knowledge base of skill set to be able to apply and use that equipment. And then when you have all that, how you can use that equipment on a patient, and that information, what is it telling you? So you can have a formula of a plan to treat the patient.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's pretend like I just called up Chuck Peoples of Appalachian Medical Solutions. And I said, hey, I would like to, I need to avail myself of your services. I'd like you to design me a first aid kit. Now, in this instance, I'd actually like you to do two for me. I'd like to have a larger one for my vehicle and, a decent size, and then a small, very small one that I can keep with my tool bag so that when I go in, because my truck's almost always there, but my tool bag is always with me, right? It's close.
Well, it goes to this. You should have medical on you. At the very least, the reason the IFAC and the components that are in what is considered an IFAC, and that was based on, of course, the military, and it's been that way for years. They've always had it, but now the modern IFAC is the things that are in it are the trauma-related injuries that can kill you within 3 to 5 minutes. That's why it's on a person. A tourniquet, which you have to have because you can bleed out in 90 seconds. Half your blood volume's gone. You could be dead on a femoral artery injury. Have a chest seal for an open, a sucking chest wound. Okay. All right. That can kill you in 5 minutes. And then a lot of people have the needle decompression for a closed chest injury, which is a pneumothorax, which is air that builds up in the pleural space. And what happens is as more of that air gets in, it's what causes a collapsed lung. But if you don't relieve that air is going to keep pushing and pushing until it gets to the heart and the vena cava and all those big major arteries. And as they compress those, you cease life.
Sure. So
you have to do that quickly. So that is the basis of an IFAC. So I look at medical as a few different things. On your body, that's something you need that you can get to within an arm's reach. Your tool bag to have not only a boo-boo kit, but stuff that you can, an IFAC, so to speak, of to dress a wound, to clean a wound up, things like that, and then a different thing. So in your case, we'll start with your vehicle med kit. So who do you plan on treating this for? Is this for you and your family? Is this going to be primarily you? Do you anticipate, is it also going to be something that if you rolled up on an emergency, you would want to help render aid if you needed to?
I would say all three. I would say the most likely instance is me by myself because I work by myself almost all the time. But we also travel as a family. So the four that still live in the home, my wife and my 12-year-old daughters. And then, of course, I do a ton of traveling. So I would love to be able to stop and have something that made me feel, at least, between the skills and the supplies, confident enough that I could stop and hopefully help a little bit.
So usually with a vehicle med kit, a lot of people will have, they're looking at primarily being able to treat traumatic injuries. All right. Okay. And when I say traumatic, it doesn't mean not only just the big serious injuries, but even smaller ones. So injuries and not illness.
Okay.
So it's in two parts. You're going to have the big stuff, how to stop the major bleed, the chest seals, those things. And then you're also going to have the smaller things. But you could also you may be out working on your engine. Say you have a mechanical problem. What if you burn your hand on a manifold or something like that? So you're gonna have stuff. So we're gonna concern ourselves with bleeding, which will be number one, tourniquets for major bleeds, life-threatening bleeds, and then we'll also look at a trauma dressing. I like to use, there's ones that I recommend is the Olays dressing. It is Tactical Medical Solutions puts it out. And the reason I like it is it's a trauma dressing. It has, your typical Israeli style type bandage, but inside where the padding is wound packing gauze also that they pack in there.
Oh, okay.
There is a cup on the top that acts as a tensioning bar. So when you wrap it, it exerts more pressure down, but you can pull that cup off the bandage.
Yep.
Use it as an eye shield.
Right.
So if you have an eye injury. There's also a clear little piece of plastic film in there that you can use to make an improvised chest seal. So all of those things in there, I like it because it's multi-purpose. You can use it for many different things. So it also cuts down on space. So you have that. So we're going to have a trauma dressing, obviously, but you need things like 2x2s, 4x4s, all that. Tape. And if you're looking at size, like within your tool bag, why have 2 or 3 different types of tape? We'll have a small flat roll of duct tape. Okay. You can use duct tape for not only for that, you can use duct tape to tape things down. You can use it as an improvised chest seal if need be to stick to. You can use it to even close a cut if you have to, if you have an incision. Yep. So if it's not a major bleed, but say you have an incision type of thing, you can actually take strips and make your own Steri-Strips butterflies with the duct tape to close a wound temporarily to keep from debris, because we want to close it and then cover it to protect the wound.
Okay.
And that's the whole reason we wrap a wound, we dress a wound, is we want to keep foreign bodies out of, to keep it clean, because once you open up your skin, you've already got contaminants in it. So if you're going to be traveling like you've done in the past cross country, may also be a good idea to maybe have some, your fish might get sick while you're traveling. So you might get some fish antibiotics while you're there, or have antibiotics and have a small med kit over-the-counter medicines of not only, OTC pain relief, but you may also want to look at anti-emetic things, anti-nausea pills. Yep. You may want to look at maybe even some stuff for allergies or stuff like that if you get them. You can kind of customize, and that's something I will talk to people about. Do you have seasonal allergies? Do you have this? So it's just like your car kit, or just like you dress, or maybe even like you carry your weapon. It changes with the seasons. Sure. So every medical kit that I do, and you always plan ahead so you repack it. What your everyday vehicle med kit may be, is probably going to be a lot different when you travel across country. You're going to add some things to it. Because you're not going to be in your familiar settings. You may want to go. So it's medical intelligence. It's mission planning. What am I doing? What am I going to be doing? What could I anticipate happening? So you may beef it up. You may have some supplies set aside that when you travel, you add to it.
Okay.
Those are all things. But also in that vehicle med kit, it'd be a good idea to have splints, a SAM splint.
Mm-hmm.
It's very versatile. It's foldable. It can pack flat, and you can use it for a variety of things. Takes a little bit of skill and knowledge, and that's some of the training that I do. But a SAM splint is very versatile to where you could do a whole arm or a whole leg or just a wrist, or you can cut it up just even a finger splint if need be. Because if you do have a long bone injury, a musculoskeletal injury, you want to immobilize it because that does two things. That protects it to keep it from further injury. So if you have a broken bone, and it's pain reduction. When you break a bone, your bone's solid. But once you break it, it does this. That doesn't feel good. Okay? So you want to immobilize it to keep it from those broken ends from moving around. And that's going to reduce pain and also protect that injury from that. So you have those things. And then also have things like ace bandages, of course, your boo-boo kit, your Band-Aids, things like that, burn stuff, but even some minor injury stuff. You may have something as of, triple antibiotic, bactitration, things like that, the burn gels and stuff. With burns, you really want to use sterile dry dressings when you protect it. But the burn dressings that have that nice cool gel, as they like to talk about, you know what that's for? It just doesn't hurt as much. The problem with that is it is sterile, but you get that stuff in there. So as soon as you get to the hospital, you know what they're going to do with all that nice cool gel and that dressing that's on there? They're going to take a push, and they're going to scrub all that skin and all that stuff out of there to debride it. So you're kind of adding to the problem a little bit. So, but it's also a pain relief, and it makes people feel better. So, and burns hurt, depending on it. And then you've got to think about eye injuries, things like that. What if you get something in your eye? If you don't have that safety glasses, you get sawdust. So, something that can do flush your eyes, things like that. Simple sterile saline in a squirt bottle, things like that. So it's well rounded. Whereas you're a little different because you're using tools. You do have a greater chance of sustaining a more serious injury with an accident, with a tool, with a saw, with a drill, things like that. So you need to be prepared. And those are just questions I ask. And that's what we would build, come up with a list of what you would need. So it's bleeding, but we also got to look at chest seals.
Okay.
You got to have them for that open chest one. We're going to look at eyes, and you kind of run through the March algorithm, as they call it, and that's the standard military, your massive bleeding, your airway, your respirations, things that are on down with the March. But you also got to look at what happens when you have a serious injury. What does your body do?
Shock.
Exactly. So we've got to treat for shock. And one of the easiest things to treat for shock is your body gets cold. It could be 99 degrees outside. You can still become hypothermic. So those small little space blankets, believe it or not, they do work. But what people forget is they'll lay them down on the ground.
Sure.
On that bare ground.
Yep.
Well, if the ground is cold, guess what's going to happen to them?
Yeah, that's gonna suck right in. I mean, you ever sit on a cold park bench?
I always like to at least put 2 of those space blankets in, so you have a ground cover, and or you might want to have something that you put in with your kit, a small tarp. You probably keep a tarp in if you've got to change a tire, you got to work on your truck, you're going to put something down so you're not laying in mud. Same thing. You just keep that in there to where it's setting on top of it, so you could bring that tarp out if you need to treat somebody. You pull up on an accident, that type of thing. Just a lot of different things, but there's also patient assessment tools. You need a flashlight. One of the other things that I always recommend people to put in their kit, or I provide it if they want me to, is a headlamp.
It's a great idea.
You got to work with your hands. You got to be able to see, even in daylight, when you're cleaning out a cut or you're debriding a cut. If you've got, like with you, you may be using a saw.
Mm-hmm.
You cut your arm, hand, whatever. Good chance that's wood. Sawdust could get in that cut. Well, we don't want to put that in there, so we're going to have to manage that cut. You want to flush all that stuff out and try to get it out. So it's having those things, a syringe to where you can do at least a gross debridement of the wound to get all the dirt out, so then you can cover it, because you want it as clean as possible to do that. So doing that wound care, so to provide that, because what if you're broke down on the road somewhere and something happens, you get out to fix a car or something, you cut yourself, whatever, you may not have help. What if you don't have cell signal? Now what are you going to do?
Right. So
do you wait till somebody comes in, or what I always tell people, and I don't know if Nate's in here or Evan. I know Nate is, and Nate's a big ham guy. But if Evan is, ham radio, have an emergency radio, have a secondary means of communication. I push that a lot with communication, because you got to call for help if you need it. And if your cell phone doesn't work, how else are you going to do it? You know, whether it's at least a CB radio or something, but why not have a ham radio? Why not get your ham license, have that ham radio, so you have emergency communications with the outside world that's not only, you know, reliant on cell phones. Because as we know, you may be in that one spot where you don't have cell signal and you can't get up and walk somewhere. Your vehicle may be broken down. You may not be able to physically go somewhere to walk till you can get a cell signal. So you want to think about that secondary means of communication also. That's just as important as any of the medical equipment.
Jake agrees too. He's also a comms guy, ex-forces. I think, maybe he's not retired yet, but he's forces guy. So do you know Jake at all from Ravenwood?
I don't believe so. We may have. I don't know.
He's a good dude. He's got a YouTube channel as well. Real good guy.
I recognize the name. I think I've seen his channel, but I don't know if we've met or not.
Throw this out there. I just found out that there's a new add-on that you can get for your Android phones. Now, it's built into the iPhone right now, but only for one way. But I believe it's $150 for the hardware and $5 a month. You're going to have two-way satellite communications. Wow. So you're going to be able to text message through low orbit satellites. And I think it's awesome. But that doesn't protect you from dropping it in a puddle, right? So...
yeah, and so building your kit is really, what are you going to use it for? Now, on body, like your toolkit, it's just going to be those major. It's going to be very similar to an IFAC with a little bit of add-ons of a boo-boo kit, because that's probably what you're going to do more. A splinter, a little nick, a cut, that type of thing. And for you, what probably wouldn't be a bad idea is to have one of those little portable ice packs, because what if you're not paying attention? You smash that finger, while you're hammering or something, having that ice on there along with that compression to have that soft tissue injury to reduce helps a lot. So, and that might be something you keep in the truck or something, but those are all things. So you have two 12-year-old girls. So I'm also going to look at, what is their size? Do they need any specific things for them as far as treatment? Depending on their size, 12-year-old and adult tourniquet's going to work, so we don't have to worry about that. Medications and things like that, you don't have to have pediatric doses for that for them. So that's also going to work at their age. So that is helpful. But that's also some of the things I like to take into account. Like I'm putting together a kit now for Evan from Radio Made Easy, and he has some small children. He's got a big group. So I'm putting the kit together for adults, but also taking into the fact that he's got small children. So some of that equipment's going to be different. It's going to be sized to them specifically, but and what's going to happen.
Just wanted to throw this out there because, of course, Ed just taught us something else I didn't know. He said where I'm at, so it's East Central Alberta. The LAD 1 through 4, LADD 1 through 4 channels are free. That's the logging, trucking, and oil field channels. Good chance you can reach out and catch somebody nearby in most of Alberta using them.
Yeah, and the thing about those are, I personally have worked in that on stateside, rural and austere environments, mostly the energy where they're doing solar fields, wind turbine fields, and oil and large, in some of the electric power industry. But a lot of times in those rural settings, they have medical personnel. That's what we did. We had EMTs and medics there. So if you're close to something like that, you may be able to get help that way before you can get traditional EMS or traditional. You may have a trained personnel to come. And normally all the safety people, like Ed, are also trained. So there's a good chance that there's another resource that you may not be aware of that can help you when you're in a more rural setting or somewhere that that you're not familiar with, that you can reach out with those radios.
Are there any concerns with any of these things because here's the deal, 5-6 months, probably 5 months of the year, freezing and solid freezing is an issue overnight in vehicles.
Yes.
So are there, I don't think there's any eye wash that doesn't freeze, is there? Because it would have to be alcohol.
Because you're not going to have alcohol in it. You can, but it's not going to be pleasant. You need to take into effect, what the weather is going to do. And also heat can really do with quick clot, even tourniquets, things like that, and sunlight. Where are you storing it? Because if you have those UV rays coming down on stuff, it's going to wear it down also. And there are things in there that can dry up with excessive heat. It's the storage temperature. So if you have those concerns, look at what the manufacturer recommends as far as storage for those things and what it can do. But let's be honest, the chest seals, the quick clot, all that was used in the desert in 120, 130 degree weather and stored and stuff like that with the militaries. So we know it works. And in the cold, they use it in brutal conditions. And that's part of the testing it goes for a lot of this equipment. But you do have to, especially electronic equipment, like if you have, of course, even your headlamp with your batteries, you leave it in there, it may not work when you need it. Your pulse ox, all those things, electronics, they are susceptible, just like any piece of electronic is, to wild temperature swings or extreme temperatures, high or low. So that is something to think about if you're storing something in your vehicle, especially if your vehicle is not garage kept or it's not, it's going to be out in the environment. It may be something that you get used to bringing in and out with you. As you get out of the car, you bring it in at night when those temperatures are going to be real low or real high.
I could probably train myself. There's a YouTube gun guy I used to watch a lot, Paul Harrell, I don't know. Yeah. And he talks about program compliance, and he talks about you're better to have a small EDC pistol than a large one that you won't carry, right? And for me, I try to make things as dead simple. And I'll be honest, it's probably going to sit in my truck most of the time because I know at least it's there, right? So, but yeah, I could, in the really, really cold days, I bring my wallet in every night too, right? So if I just get in the habit of grabbing my SOE wallet and my SOE bag, that could work.
Yeah, and it's just, again, what you're going to prepare for. A typical vehicle med bag, I've got the SOE med bag. It sits right behind the front passenger seat, so I can reach and grab it if I need to. And it's all trauma stuff. That's what I've got in there. I've got tourniquets. I've got pressure dressings. I've got chest seals, and I also have, but I have multiples of it, because here's the thing. It's not just for me, but if I pull up and I'm going to help somebody out, there's a good chance there could be more than one injury. One person can have more than one injury. They may need more than one tourniquet. They may have more than one laceration. So you need to be prepared for multiples. I always go by the rule is 1 is none, 2 is 1. Yep. And having multiples and having backups. And it's having your equipment staged and ready, and having your tourniquet staged and ready. So, my tourniquets are out of the package. They're ready to go, and I can deploy them immediately. So it's ready to go within seconds. Keeping it in that package, that plastic packaging that it comes in, it's costing you valuable seconds. It really is, because you've got about 90 seconds to stop that. If that happens right in front of you, how long did it take you to get to somebody, to get that?
Right.
How much time do they have left? Do you really want to be fooling around with, shrink wrap packaging on something, trying to tear it open and then get it back out, because they all come, they're not staged and ready to go out of the package. You've got to get it all ready to go. So getting your equipment ready and having it ready, knowing what you have, knowing where it is, that you don't have to think about it, and if you use it, replace it.
That's the other thing. And that's another reason to have two of each thing, or most things, because,
Right.
You might be on a 30-hour, like me, for instance, it's a 3-day, 30-hour trip to Camden. So maybe I stop halfway on my first day to respond to something. Well, there's a good chance if I'm on the road, I'm probably not going to stop to Walmart to replenish my first aid kit for at least until I get there, right?
No, and if you're going on a long road trip like that, that's when you want to beef up your kit. You may want to add more of those supplies and stuff just in case. Or you may want to have your own little supply cache that you just stick somewhere in the truck. So if you use something, you've got a little bit of extra supplies to pick from, that you can replenish your kits from. If you're going to carry an everyday boo-boo kit on you, that you've got Band-Aids and stuff like that, well, it's always going to be that chance. Oh, well, I've got 2 Band-Aids left. Oh, I'll put some more in tomorrow. No, you won't.
Yep.
You'll use the last one, and then when you need it again, it's not there. So it's mindset, and it's preparedness of everything. Everybody prepares for. They have their food, they check their stocks, they check their power, they have all those things. It's the medical preparedness too, and it's also using that equipment and familiar with the equipment, which goes back to training. If you don't have the proper training, I don't care how good of a canned kit you have or all the equipment you have. There's another one. Subscribe, unsubscribe. Get it every couple of months or whatever it is that you can, and you can build up a stock that way. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. When you think you have enough gauze stored up, you don't. Because when you go into long-term large wound cares, those wound care buckets that people sell, and I'm not knocking anybody or any company, Ed will tell you it's on here. Anybody that's got any type of advanced medical training, that won't even cover you for a month on one laceration. So you got to understand, you're going to be packing, if you're not closing a wound, and really closing a wound does it's for cosmetic purposes. That's why people do stitches and all the little fancy stuff. Most of the time it's for cosmetics, and that's why they do suturing. We can still close a wound with a staple.
Right.
It's going to leave a scar. That's why we do sutures, and stapling's very easy. Jason's in here. Ask him. He took one in his class. He volunteered for it. And we had Shelly put a staple in his arm. It's not hard. She'd never done it before. She was a little apprehensive until she did it. And Jason even said, well, how bad does it hurt? It's not that bad to go in. No anesthesia, no nothing. He took a staple in the arm, a skin stapler. So
probably easier than being sutured, I'm guessing, or probably quicker.
Much easier and much quicker. And most wounds, typical wounds, can be stapled closed that could be sutured. Now, there are some wounds but most of the time, in a real world grid down scenario type thing, you're probably not going to be closing wounds. You're going to be cleaning and packing them every single day, doing wet to dry dressings and all these things. And that's the big thing, is having that equipment and having it ready. So when you look at your home medical kit, you don't have enough.
No, I know I don't. And
I literally had somebody contact me. Matter of fact, I was watching one of the tactical response lives, and somebody on there said, "Hey, Chuck Peoples, I was told I need to contact you," and they messaged me, and they said, "Hey, look, my group, we want to buy a pallet of gauze. Can you make that happen?" Because I was told we don't have enough to. Yeah, Jason's doing it too. I mean, his group is going through stuff, going through buying bulk quantities of things, because if you want to be prepared, you're not going to have it. And here's the thing. Look at our supply chain issues now.
Oh, yeah.
So having those things ready, get it now. So kit-wise, also, what happens if you do have that medical kit and you use something in it, but you can't get any of replacement? So, just like you've got nails for your nail gun, right?
Yep.
You're not going to buy just enough for a job, are you? You're going to go buy them in bulk. Yeah. It's the same thing. Why would you only buy a few Band-Aids to put in your boo-boo kit? Have bulk, have extra gauze, have these extra things, because you may not be able to get it when you need to replenish it.
When was the best time to have toilet paper? Before the pandemic started.
Yeah. So kits it really goes through, what do you want? What are you going to use it for? Everybody knows about the IFAC to stop the bleed, which is great. You have to have it. But then it's going into, do you anticipate you might be doing some prolonged care? Do you have children? Do you have, are you going to respond to accidents? Because not every accident's a major bleed. Not every accident needs a pressure dressing. It may be simple gauze, a 4x4 and some simple regular rolled gauze that you wrap up a small laceration with. So it's having all those little things and putting that together for you is going to be pretty easy. Your vehicle med kit will be a combination of the major trauma stuff, some gauze, some 4x4s, 2x2s, and then some boo-boo kit stuff and some splinting materials and stuff to take care of eye stuff, because what you're going to need is I wouldn't necessarily carry the eye wash and those things maybe in with your toolkit. We'll have a smaller kit, but in that smaller kit, we're going to have a little bit of gauze. We're going to have some Band-Aids and some things to take care of minor wounds and things like that. At home, where you may beef up your kit when you go cross country, you might want to start looking into some wound closure stuff, some things to take care of a wound that you may have to for a day or so or several hours. You may want to look at a skin stapler. My opinion, have a medical kit in your vehicle, one with you, your everyday carry, and then you have a more extensive one at home. Because why wouldn't you be prepared? You're stacking the food. You've got the water. You've got alternate sources of power, heat, all these things. Why would you not have extra medical? And a lot of it.
Now that we have two, we upgraded a few years ago. We bought two, the Rubbermaids with the rubber seals, see-through, and we do audits. I'm really proud of our home first aid. It's the mobile and at work that's where I'm good, because did I ever tell you that I had to go to Emerge twice in 8 days to get debris removed from my eyes? Yeah. Because I'm stupid. So anyway, yeah.
Well, we all, if it wasn't for stupidity, I wouldn't have a job. So, and believe me, I've spent plenty of time in hospital. So I get it. But a lot of people think, I've got some bandaging. I've got this. Okay. Do you have stuff to clean that wound with? And how much of it do you have?
Right.
Do you have the triple antibiotic? Do you have the medications? And let me ask you this. Is it always going to be trauma? What happens when you get a stomach bug or you get the flu? Do you have a thermometer to see if you have a true temperature? Do you have the things of, do you know what dosages to give to treat a fever? To treat what happens if you do have that stomach bug and it's coming out both ends, now you're dehydrated. Do you have the electrolytes and the things like that to replace it? Do you have what's called liquid IV, which is literally a big package that you can dump into water that has a ton of electrolytes and nutrients in it? That's like getting a 500 milliliter bag of an IV that you drink.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you know what? You can buy it at Walmart. You can buy it at any pharmacy. It's over the counter, or Squinchers, or all these different things that have the electrolytes. It's like Gatorade, because Gatorade, the thing about Gatorade that most people don't realize is when you get severely dehydrated, your stomach is a little upset. You'll get sick. People, I want a Gatorade. I'm going to drink. Gatorade was invented to drink and to pre-plenish, as I call it, You drink that while you're going because you're constantly going, not when you're severely dehydrated, and that's what people do. It's too harsh on the stomach. Cut it in half, water it down. It's having that knowledge, but there's better products out there to have just in case. Like Ed said, cardiac arrest isn't always trauma. That's right. Heart problems. Okay. In your clear totes, do you have something that you can manage a kidney stone with?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than some pretty potent painkillers, but yeah.
Well, that's going to be one, but how do you know the stone's passed? How do you know you have more than one stone? And then let me ask you this. What if you can't get help for 2 weeks and one of your daughters gets an infection?
Right.
How are you going to monitor them? How do you know that they're getting better or they're getting worse? How do you know that their internals are functioning properly? Because there's only a couple of ways that you can actually do that without advanced medical testing, because you're going to have to monitor things like their output, which is their pee. Yep. You got something to measure pee in? Do you know what to look for? What if somebody can't get out of the bed? Are you prepared to do the nursing care?
Right. That's huge.
Do you know how to take vital signs and what they mean? Sure, I could teach somebody. You'd be surprised how many people can't take a pulse, a radial pulse, in their wrist, where to find it. Do you know how many people take it with their thumb? What's the problem with taking it with your thumb?
Is there too much cushion there? You don't get a good reading, or?
No, you have an artery in your thumb. You know what you're going to feel?
Your own pulse. Now, I've always been able to do the...
Yeah, well, but here's a quick thing. How do you know somebody's blood pressure is low without a blood pressure cuff?
I don't know.
Well, that radial pulse is one of the furthest points away from your body. If the radial pulse is present, then they've got a good systolic, which is your top number, blood pressure. That is at least 80 to 90, depending on who you look at. But if you can't feel that radial pulse, but they still have that pulse here, that means their blood pressure is low, seriously low, and they're now compromised. So their whole circulation, their cardiac system is compromised. Where to find a pedal pulse, that if you have a leg injury, right there, distal to a femur fracture. It's all those little things of what they mean, those vital signs. Do you really know how to take a blood pressure? It looks simple. Oh, I'll just put that thing around their arm and I'll just use the stethoscope. Well, there's different ways to take a blood pressure, but you actually have to put that cuff on a certain way in a certain place. It can't be too tight, can't be too loose. And then what are you listening for? How do you properly do it? And what if you don't have stethoscope? Or what if you're in an environment that's very loud and you can't hear with the stethoscope? You can also, once again, with that radial pulse, you could take a blood pressure and you can feel when that disappears, you pump it up a little bit more, usually 20 more. And then when it returns, as you're feeling the pulse and you're letting that air out slowly and you feel that, that's what your systolic pressure is. That's called a blood pressure. That's by palpation.
Really?
So it would be, your blood pressure would be 120 palp by palpation. You know what the systolic is.
Huh. Okay.
So it's evaluating that, and then we trend our vital signs. What does that pulse ox mean? What do those numbers mean? What is the correct, how fast? You could count how many times somebody's breathing a minute, but do you know what the average respiratory count is of an adult per minute?
I don't think I do. I'm going to guess 30.
I mean. It's knowing those things. And what does it mean if they're, obviously we know if they're breathing too slow, that's bad.
Sure.
But breathing too fast can also be bad. And their quality of breathing.
Right.
So it's knowing all these things and being prepared for it. A thermometer is greatly important. All these little things are important for your kit, whether it's at home, whether it's in your car, whether it's on your person, whether it's your IFAC. It's levels. It's layers, as I call it. It's your layers of medical. Where you're going to be in your mission planning. Where am I going to be? You may have it in your truck, but normally you may be in an urban area. But what if you're working on a job that's in a rural area? How close is your closest hospital? Is the EMS paid or are they volunteer? What's their average response time? Do they even have anybody on duty? Can they get to you? What's the weather? Most people don't think about those things. And those are things that you have to be prepared for, because you might go, well, I'm going to be in this rural area. I might want to take a little bit more with me just in case, because I'm not going to be able to run home to take some Tylenol. Having those O2C meds. What if you get diarrhea? A lot of people think, oh, I've got diarrhea, I'm going to take some Imodium and stop it.
No, really. That's always been our go-to. Why is that?
Well, why do you have diarrhea? Usually diarrhea is what? It's a bacteria.
Right.
Do you want to keep that in you?
That's a good point. I never thought.
You want to get it out of you. Now, there comes to a point where your body may not adjust and not be able to stop it. You do have to stop it. But in all reality, you need to get that bacteria out. So let nature take its course. But then you also have to think, I'm losing a lot on the inside. I need to replenish that. So it's that preventative maintenance of taking in fluids, being strong, when to eat. And then you've also got to think about things like, well, do you have anybody in your family who's a diabetic, or are they hypoglycemic, which are two different things? You need to be prepared for that. You need to have those things, especially when going on a trip. If one of your daughters is susceptible, that her blood sugar bottoms out regularly, do you have something that you're going to have that you can fix that? Do you have glucose tabs or anything that can raise their blood sugar quickly and have it accessible? Because you may not always have food with you.
What about EpiPen? Is that, do you recommend?
Yes. Well, here's my thing. If you need an EpiPen, and
Sure.
I run into this in every class that I teach, I do this. I tell people, if you need an EpiPen, your car is not the place for it. An EpiPen is like a tourniquet. It needs to be on your body at all times, because you need that, because anaphylaxia, which is that allergic reaction, whether it's a bee sting or a food allergy, whatever, happens like that. And what happens is true anaphylaxia, that medicine that's in there, epinephrine, what it does is it counters, because what happens is your airway constricts. Anaphylaxis is your body. It's overstimulating itself. Okay. It's releasing all this stuff. So you need to relax it to where your airway can open, because that's what happens with true anaphylaxia is your airway closes off. So that medicine stops that essentially and reverses that. But what if you have a mild allergic reaction? Do you have Benadryl with you? It's those things. So it's being prepared all the time, especially with you. You're in different places working with your business. So your kit may look a lot different than what somebody else's may, who uses their car to maybe drive to work and back, or they're just out running errands. They're not too far from home, where you're gone in different places every day. So your vehicle kit might want to be beefed up a little bit more for you, that you have those extra little things, because you may not be close to home, or it can be convenient. So you have that little supply cache, as I like to call it, with you. Your medical supply cache, because that's what a med kit is.
So how about, let me ask you this then. So you're on your person, everyday carry. So I keep knife and flashlight around my neck, because I hate things in my pockets, around my waist, just never enjoyed it. So what are the options for a very small everyday carry first aid kit? Like how? What
I would do for me, it's how you carry your EDC gear. If you're only carrying it directly on your body. Now, if you have, like, I have a backpack that goes with me everywhere.
Okay.
John's, his day pack.
Yep.
I carry a medical kit in there and a boo-boo kit. It's in there always. But on my body, I carry a tourniquet every day. It is on me. It sits on my wallet. When I take it out for the night, it goes on my wallet, because I won't walk out of the house with my wallet, and I won't walk out of the house without a tourniquet. That's at minimum my on-body carry. The other thing that I've developed is, and I'm going to have them at SRF, and I can have them if you contact me. They're not up on my website yet, because I'm just now actually getting the supplies to have them, because I don't like to do back order. I don't like to put anything on the website unless I physically have it in inventory. It's a pocket carry. So basically what it is it's there's a 4x4, a 2x2, a small flat pack of duct tape, a flat rolled ace bandage, and a 5x9, what's called an abdominal dressing. What that essentially is that's a pressure dressing. That's all a pressure dressing, a trauma dressing is. It's stretchy material like an ace bandage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big piece of gauze. Well, all of this can be compact to about the thickness of a wallet, of an SOE wallet, about this thick, that you could put in your back pocket, your front pocket, cargo pocket, whatever, that you have an emergency, at least bleeding control. So if it's not a cut that requires a tourniquet, but you have a large laceration that you still need to control the bleeding and put pressure on, direct pressure, you have that at your disposal. Quick, easy to get to. Pair of gloves. And then you can even add in Band-Aids are simple. That could be in your wallet.
Mm.
Why wouldn't you, in your wallet, put a few Band-Aids, at least to have, if you're like me, a lot of pants I wear have cargo pockets. Now, a lot of people, like you said, they don't like a lot of crap in their pockets. I'm just used to it. I've worked as a paramedic. We always have stuff on me. I mean, I carry 2 knives a day with me. I have a folding knife and a straight blade knife, always. So those are tools. Medical is tools. So I keep that on me for a reason, because I carry a firearm with me 99% of the time. I have it on my body.
Sure.
So if I have to use that firearm, that probably means that there could be bullets coming back at me too, So I want to be able to, number one, treat me, but there may be people that I can help within arm's distance. If I don't have that med kit directly on me, that IFAC, at least I have some sort of emergency medical equipment on me that I can use, of the tourniquet, the pressure dressing of that too. And I can also do it to where I can put in if you want a chest seal in there, I can add that also. But that duct tape can act as an improvised chest seal temporarily until more care, more extended care comes, or, better equipment that you can get your hands on.
Could you, would it be too thick to add a tourniquet to that as well? Like if you want,
you very well could. I like to carry my tourniquet separately, for the reason is I don't want it in a package. I want to get to this as quick as possible. Now, whether you carry it in a pocket, you can also get a belt sleeve. And I sent an idea to Mr. Willis. He's got a deplorable tourniquet, but what I wanted was something that you could carry on your belt instead of vertical, a horizontal position that you could put in the back with it's a sleeve that you can access with either hand, so it sits in line with your belt, so it's not sticking out or protruding much, and you kind of forget it's there. And they make tourniquet holders that are inside the pants and that hook onto holsters and everything. So really not carrying a tourniquet because you say, oh, it's hard to carry, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. It really is. Carry a fucking tourniquet. There's no reason.
Amen. I love it. I really need to start.
This is a minimum. I know there's people in here right now who've taken my class, and they'll tell you that's exactly what I say. At minimum, have this with you, because this will save your life or somebody else's. Truly. I've used a tourniquet many a times on real patients, and it saved their life. I've seen tourniquets used. It saves lives. We have 30 years of use of it overseas with Canadian Armed Forces, American Armed Forces, around the world. Windlass tourniquets work.
Scott, I didn't shout Scott out earlier, but good to have you, Scott. He said, if you can carry a cell phone on your hip, you can carry a tourniquet. So true.
Look, which one's bigger?
Absolutely. Every day of the week, guaranteed,
Yeah, that's in your pocket. You're trying to tell me you can't, because I'll show you now. Look at the thickness.
Yep.
This is just an OtterBox case. This is an iPhone. This isn't that much bigger. You're trying to tell me you can't carry this when it's a smaller footprint than this?
We also got John Witherspoon IV in here. Good to have him. He said they fit. They will fit in your pocket very easily. So what I love the idea, what you're talking about, the little, we're going to call it the first aid wallet.
Yeah.
So I have an over-the-shoulder, as I like to call it, my man purse, my tactical bag, over-the-shoulder tactical bag from SOE.
Yeah.
So I could easily put both the tourniquet.
You can put all kinds of stuff in there. I've got his BBD bag. I've got the double wide crossbody. I've got kits that, depending on what bag I carry, I could take it and put it in. It's got Velcro on it. You can Velcro it in. You can stick it in one of the mesh pockets and put it in there. You can carry a lot of equipment. There's no reason not to. The ankle kit, if you want to put a whole med kit, you can put a whole IFAC on your ankle and carry it every day. I carry one. That's usually how I carry medical. I don't put the tourniquet in there because, again, I'm so used to carrying it in a certain spot on my body. It's muscle memory. I don't have to think about it, so I'm not going to change it up. But everything else, the pressure dressing, a nasopharyngeal airway, I've got a decompression needle, I've got wound packing gauze, I have duct tape and gloves in that ankle kit. So I can take care of all that. I have an IFAC on me most of the time. It's on my ankle, and I hated ankle kits. I never found one. I bugged John enough, and other people did too, to get him to do the ankle, and it's very comfortable. His is much more comfortable and very slim. The problem with I've found with other manufacturers, not knocking them, I don't like to knock anybody, but John's is very slim, very easy to carry. It's not bulky on your ankle, and you forget it's there. Once you're wearing it, I'll forget I have it on, and I've worn it 20 hours. And, I'm like sitting down at the end of the day, taking my shoes off. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've got an ankle kit on. I forget it's there.
I'm down with that. I like the idea of an ankle kit. I like that better than just about anything else because it keeps it on
your
me.
body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's on your body. I think my ankle kit's actually I've got one on the table in there, but I would show you. But there's no reason not to have it, And yes, do I recommend Special Operations Equipment's ankle kit? Yes, I recommend all their gear. I recommend their wallet. But all my medical bags, I switched over to John's stuff because it works. And a lot of his stuff is so versatile, whether it's the fanny pack, the FUPA, the crossbody bag, the BDD bag, all those things you can carry medical in. The briefcase, the day pack, all of that. There's no reason you can't. Every backpack, they all have Velcro. You can stick it in, all that.
John says bears SOB. Do you know what that means? I don't.
Small the back. It's a kit.
Okay.
I sell a kit that's just like that. Lots of people do. And it fits on your belt. John Willis has, his compact tear-off kit. It's about the same size, fits in. It's on a harness that attaches to your belt, but you can actually tear it off. It's Velcro attached, so you can get to it. I mean, if you want something that big, you can, but there's all kinds of different things. You can even fashion a flat kit that can hang around your neck, if you wanted, underneath a shirt. But, I like the ankle kit, but have something, if you're out and you're used to carrying a backpack or a bag, a crossbody bag or something like that, there's no reason not to carry medical. There's no reason that you can't have even a comprehensive medical kit on you. It doesn't have to be big. Comprehensive could take care of a lot of emergencies, but have it with you. That's the key.
I can handle that. Yeah. So what other questions do you need to know from me, or do you, what
other, so the things that I would want to know is, and you don't have to say here on the live, do you have medical conditions for you, your family that you're concerned with, like you were talking before? Does somebody have a true, like an allergic reaction to bee stings or a food allergy or something like that? You should make sure that's with them, that EpiPen, and you may even want to look at, if you're able to with your doctor or whatever, get an additional one, have a backup. So because again, one is none, two is one.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, what do you anticipate? I would look at, does somebody have a cardiac problem or a history of cardiac? Have aspirin.
Right.
Aspirin's not for pain. What people take aspirin for chest pains is it's an anticoagulative coagulate. Yeah, it opens up. Exactly. So it's having little things like that. What do you anticipate? Does somebody have asthma? Do you need your inhaler? That's something that you need to include in those kits, even though that person may have it on them. We all forget. We're human.
Yes, absolutely.
Have it with you so you know it's in there, because again, you're the first responder. You may be the first responder for your family. You don't want to see your family suffer, so be prepared. Take the extra 5 seconds, think about it, get the extra stuff, put it in there. Most doctors will write you an additional prescription for an inhaler and things like that, so you'll have it.
And that's all the more reason to both have a doctor who understands you and have a good relationship with your doctor. Because if you're going in cold to some doctor you just met and you're like, hey, write me a prescription for whatever, but if you legitimately talk, like you said, and I have with my doctors, talk to them. And most times, if they're sensible and you're not a crackhead, they're probably going to help you out because they know you're coming from a genuine place.
Right. And get those extra things, have that. If you're concerned that you want the antibiotics at home that because you may have a family member who maybe they get a urinary tract infection a few times a year. Why wouldn't you have the antibiotics there? Because what if you go on that road trip and that happens? You're away from your doctor.
Yep.
Do you want to have to take the chance of going to a strange ER or a clinic or something like that? Have that there that you can take care of it with. So you can contact the services like Jace Medical or whatever. My whole thing is whatever kit you have, whoever you get it from, whatever you carry, if you don't have it, it's the best kit is what you've got, whatever it is, whatever tourniquet is, whatever bandage it is, whatever brand it is, have one, whether you get whether you buy it from me, you buy it from Bear, you buy it from Tactical Medical Solutions, you buy it from Ed at the Iridium Group, all those things. Get the equipment. Those are people I'm going to tell you. If you don't get it from me, I'm going to tell you. You're in Canada, call Ed.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you? Get your training from Ed. Get your equipment from Ed. If you're not going to buy it from me, buy it from Bear. Buy it from these people because I know they give good quality kits. They give you the things that you should have. Do I want you to buy it from me? Well, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, of course I do. But I want you to get one. If you don't like me and say, oh, well, Chuck's an asshole, I'm not giving any money. Fine, I'm an asshole, but go buy a kit. Get it from somebody else. And get the training. That's essential. There's a ton of training out there as far as the tactical stuff, the TCCC, whatever you want to call it, for the March algorithm, the tactical combat casualty care, or tactical emergency casualty care, whether you're in the military or whatever you want to call it, the stop the bleed stuff of where you stop the hemorrhage, you do the emergency airway stuff. Ton of people out teaching it. There's people, some people are good, some people are bad, but there's several really good programs out there to take. But there's not a lot of people, and really nobody that I'm aware of that's really doing what I'm doing now as far as the real advanced. I'm teaching medicine's not rocket science. It's not. Right. It's skill and trade. I'm teaching things that I've taught to EMTs, paramedics, nurses, doctors, all those things. There's nothing in this world that says I can't teach it to you. I just can't certify you to go out and do it. Now, what you do in your own home,
right?
And disaster strikes, you think somebody's going to be going around and saying, let me see your certification card. So why wouldn't you be prepared, at least just for the sake of your own family, and be prepared and have these things and have these kits. Putting together a medical kit it's personal. It's a personal thing of what you want to do. And it's also, my thing is, Tim, you said you took the Red Cross kit. What other medical training do you have?
Right. Yeah. That basically my every 2 or 3 years first aid kit or first aid training at this point.
If you've never trained with a SAM splint, me giving you a SAM splint is going to be kind of useless. So what I would tell you to do, if you're not going to take a class from me, you're already up north, go see Ed.
Yes.
Or when you're traveling, take one of those classes, whether it's from me, whether it's from Jake Drum, whether you take a class from Bear. I don't know. I don't think they teach splinting, but they teach all the tactical stuff, but you need to know these things. Get the wound care. Keep going on. A lot of people will go to TAC response and take, they'll take, fighting pistol 1, fighting pistol 2, fighting rifle 1. They'll keep building on it, right? But yeah, exactly. I don't provide, the only certification that I give you, that I can legally give you, is a Stop the Bleed certificate. All right. But my Stop the Bleed class is well beyond what the American College of Surgeons recommends. Well beyond. It's not a 2-hour class. Mine's all day. And I give you 90% more than what I'm supposed to, technically in the class. But it's not certifications, it's being prepared. And, you're not certified. You get a certificate when you take a firearms class from Tactical Response, but you're not certified to go out and be a police officer or, some SWAT team member. No, you've learned to be safe and how to properly use that tool. It's the same thing with medical training. Go on and beyond, keep building on that, because you're probably going to use that medical training is going to come up more than what the firearms thing is. You're more likely to have to use that medical knowledge than you will the firearms. Should you be prepared for both? Absolutely. But in all reality, let's think about it. How more often are you likely to get shot at than you are to get sick?
100%.
Yeah. So, yes, be prepared for both, but prepare for that medical and have the equipment and have the knowledge. Have the equipment, but you got to have that knowledge. The two weave together. If you don't have one, the other one's useless.
When I went to Tactical Response, I was about halfway through maybe day 2 of fighting pistol. I took fighting pistol, fighting rifle. I asked, I bet you 6 or 8 different people there, what should I take next? And everybody said the fight and then the first aid course that goes along with it. And I said to some, I said, there's lots of first aid in Canada. And they're like, no, this is not it. Yeah. And because again, it's not your typical first aid.
You know what? The Red Cross, and I'm not downing Red Cross or American Heart Association or anything. I was an instructor for both. Okay. And taught their curriculum. It's an awareness course. It really is. It's an awareness level course. So do you just want to be aware of emergencies, or do you want to treat them? And that's what it comes down to. Get more training, build on it, and then practice it. Practice putting on your tourniquet. Practice that with your family. You can have all that equipment in your car, but what if you're the one who's hurt and you can't render aid? So your daughter should know. Your wife should know. Who is going to be with you in that vehicle to use that kit? Do they know where it is, what's in it, and can they use the equipment?
That's a good point.
There's no reason why a 12-year-old can't learn everything that you learn medically. And you know what? They're going to learn better than you are.
And faster.
Yeah, yep. They are. Teach your kids. My son's in here. Ask him how old he was when I taught him how to use a tourniquet. How old he was when I taught him the medical stuff. He was immersed in it. But I did it for that reason too, is you're not too early. And with my courses, if you sign up for one of my courses and you bring your children, and I'll do it anything from about 13 and below, 13 and younger, if they can sit through the course and they're not going to disturb other participants, I give the kids the course for free.
Nice.
I think they should have it. Why shouldn't they?
Right.
Why shouldn't they be prepared?
That's actually a really good idea. I taught him how to use a little fire extinguisher, but never thought, it's funny, all the things you don't necessarily think about, isn't it?
What if you get hurt or your wife gets hurt and they're with them, who's going to help?
Right. Taught them our home phone number, address, and that kind of stuff for those exact reasons. But yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. And here's the thing. My grandson, Chase's son, is 6 years old. I tell him, put medical stuff in his backpack, put a flashlight, put, that stuff in. There's somebody that we know that is in our circle right now. He has a son who is in high school, had a pair of Leatherman shears, the emergency blunt tip shears.
Yeah.
School saw it. School safety officer said he was allowed to have it. The police officer.
Yep.
He was in the school. The assistant principal saw it and said it was a weapon, ruled as a weapon, is going to try to expel him, not suspend him, expel him for having a weapon. It's a blunt-tipped pair of safety scissors. The scissors that they use in art class are more dangerous than these. And he told him, which I've said this in class, other people have, if anybody ever questions you about your medical gear, tell them you have a medical condition that if you bleed to death, you'll die. If you bleed to death, you'll die. You know, if you bleed, you know, so he carried him with him because he's a younger man, very prepared. He's got a brother. I mean, they're great, smart kids, very well prepared. But that's ridiculous. But you know what? That same pair of scissors is in the school's first aid kit.
Sure it is.
So, you know, that's what I mean is, why wouldn't you be prepared? Kids of all ages. So your kit, you're going to have that first aid kit, but can everybody who has access to it, who's going to be in that vehicle or in that home, can they use it? That's also part of building the kit. What can everybody use? So even if you take a class, Tim, there's no reason why you can't go back and teach some of those skills to your family. And if you want them to have more advantage, get them in a class. You know, have them take a class. Do it as a family thing. You know, Chase comes with me now to help me teach a lot of classes. He's assists me. He's a class dummy, as they spec. I think they were joking about that earlier. You know, he does that, but he's also learning from that every time. He's learning more and more and more. It's additional reps. It's like anything else.
Like I said, every time I know it's only Red Cross, but every time I've taken it, I've learned something else. Yeah. Every time.
Yeah. And build on that and build the kit. We can go on with everything, but every kit is different. For you, I've got a list of things that I'll do for you.
I'm just gonna. Jason just said if Ed could get in touch with him. If either of you don't have each other's email, I can send an introduction email for you guys. I don't know if you do. So
I've got it too, Jason.
Okay, you can. Yeah.
Okay. Whoever you want can do it. I can put you all in touch with each other. But you know, take the training, do the things, have it. You know, I'm looking at people here. Ed's going to be at SRF. I don't think Scott's going to be there this time. Jason's going to be there. There's several people that I've seen that are in the chat now that are going because they're going to learn more things, you know, and I'm sure they've probably taken a lot of the same classes before from different people. But they're taking it again because you may learn something new, that little nugget of knowledge from that certain instructor that ties something else bigger together. So, you know, I learn something new every class I teach because I may learn something because you may do something or teach something, explain something the same way for years. And there'll be that one person in the one class you teach. Well, why don't you say it this way? I've been doing this 20 years. Why didn't I think of that? You know, so you learn something. That's why I like to say, I don't like to teach. I'm training with these people because I'm learning too. I'm training too. When I'm showing them skills, I'm also practicing. I'm also doing it. That's reps for me. We learn, we train, we do it because the more you do it, obviously, the better you become. It's just like any other skill.
So this year, one of my goals has been to get better at situational awareness. And a lot of times when we, decide we want to learn something, we start with a book. And you read the book and you're like, oh, there, I'm good. Well, I've committed this year. I've got a book on situational awareness that I'm going to listen to every month, 12 times in a year, because I guarantee you I will learn more doing that than going out and trying to find 3 or 4 different books.
I've got a stack of medical books that I have read. I've got one. It's called Ditch Medicine by Hugh Coffey.
Okay.
My book is worn out. I've read it so much, and it's hard to get copies now. It's out of print right now. But I'm telling you, for a person who wants, if you were just going to have one book to have for medical reference, that's the book, because he explains it very easily. It's not a bunch of medical terms. There's a lot of pictures, so that way Jason can understand it. There's lots of pictures for him.
I know. from Kentucky.
Yeah, well, that way but yeah, ditch medicine is a wonderful, wonderful book, and I'm telling you, get that book. But there's so many other books out there. The pararescue field guide for the pararescue person, Air Force, the PJs.
Sure.
Their book, Special Forces Medic book, and get the actual one, not the fakes that are going out there. There's an actual book, but all those are stuff you can buy. There's so many different ones that you can get. Yeah, Jason, I've got one in crayon for you, so that way you can understand it.
They're not sharpened crayons.
Yeah, it's got to be sharpened. It's always learn, always look, and that also should be part of your kit. Are you going to remember everything, how to do everything? Have a reference guide. It's okay to look at something. All right, I've got this. I've stopped the emergency for now. I've got the bleeding stopped. It's going to be 2 hours before I get any help. What can I do now? I've got the tourniquet on. Now what should I do? Because your adrenaline's going to be up. Your mind's going to be going, this is something you're not used to. Mm-hmm. So now what do you do? It's not bad to have that reference. And then, you know what? We've all got a computer in our hand at all times. Put a book on there. Put these reference books on your phone. Have those PDFs on there so you can pull things up. Make notes. Make your own reference chart. You've got a note section in the book. Make those notes that you can pull up real quick and read. And go from that. That should also be part of your kit, is to be prepared. And the other thing that you should have in every kit, gloves, disposable gloves, eye protection, blood splatters. If you're not intimate with that person, do you really want their body fluids in your body?
Not if I can help it.
Exactly. So at least I can't stress eye protection, gloves, really at the minimum. Have that in there and have those tools. And when you build your kit, what are you doing it for? But have the minimum. Have something to stop bleeding. Have something to stop the emergencies. And then have a boo-boo kit, because you're going to use that boo-boo kit more than anything else you're going to have. But when you're looking at a home medical kit, we can go as big or as small as you want to go. But my opinion is have a broad-based thing that takes care of not only injuries, but illness. Try to be prepared for everything, because I bet you don't just store rice as food, do you?
Nope.
You've got a kind of variety, right? So you've got to have that variety of illnesses and injuries that can happen. Have that equipment. And you know what? A lot of it's not that expensive to do. And get with your groups. Do a group buy. If you buy in numbers, vendors are going to give you, a better deal. I can get you a better deal if you buy in better numbers than one or two pieces at a time. If it's not me, get it from Jake Drum at Emergency Solutions. Get it from Bear. Get it from Tactical Med Solutions, Rescue Essentials, all those places. If you buy in bulk, they're going to give you a better deal.
We have, like I said, we have two medical kits in the house, two see-through ones. One is for injury. The other one is for illness. I didn't realize that until you just mentioned it. But guess which one we use 10 times to 1? The illness one over the injury one.
Sure.
Because always, that's the one that we constantly have to, every 3 or 4 months, take a run through and see, okay, what do we have? What do we need to stock up? What is spilled, or, that kind of thing. Just, that's the one we're always in and out of.
Well, the other thing also is think of the minor inconvenience things. If you have acid reflux or you have heartburn and you're trying to go and work and you think, oh, I'll just go through this, it's miserable. You're not going to be able to concentrate, and you may be chopping wood with an axe and you've got heartburn, it's bothering you, and you that momentary slip, and next thing you know. So think of things like Tums, antacids, those things. Milk of magnesia. Have those comfort items, so to speak, but it's also treating an illness. It may be a minor illness, but it's something that's very treatable and easy. In the long run, it's going to be better for you. Why be miserable?
Huh. It's true. Robax is one of mine that,
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't take it as often as I probably should, but when I do, I never thought of that though. The little inconvenience could lead to something much larger when your brain is somewhere else and all of a sudden, oh, it was just a sore back. And now I need to apply a tourniquet because I just cut through my wrist, right?
Right. So preventative maintenance is basically, as you know, it's just preventative maintenance on that stuff. When you notice that little problem, it's just like on a door. You got a little squeak on the hinge, 2 seconds of WD-40, you can take care of that, right? It's going to tell you can prevent that little issue. Why wouldn't you take an antacid or something like that? So that concentration, it's not going to make a small problem doesn't turn into some sort of a big problem, because you can get sick. And then think about the colds, the flus, the stomach viruses. Those are going to hit a lot more than anything else. And if you're in a situation where water might be precious, food might be precious, prevent those things. So you've got that stuff, so you can kind of, at the first sight of something, you can have those medicines you can get over it quicker. You can alleviate the problem much quicker instead of suffering longer.
Makes sense. Do you have time for a couple? I have a couple questions that I started from somebody earlier. If anybody else has any questions for Chuck, throw them out now. We'll get them knocked out, because when we have an expert, we got to pick his brains, right? So
far from an expert, but I'll try to. If I don't know the answer, I'll find it.
I'm not sure how to TMWY song over on Twitch. Want to know your opinions on super glue?
Okay, so will super glue work? Yes. Commercial super glue has a caustic material in there that can actually kill skin. Okay?
Really?
Yes. There is Dermabond, which is medical grade super glue. It's got a couple of different ingredients in it, but will super glue work? Yeah. You know what? As a contractor, Jason's in here, we know what a contractor's med kit is. Electrical tape.
All day long.
The thing about it is that adhesive in that electrical tape is also caustic to your skin. It can actually eat away. If it gets on the inside of that flesh, it's not good for it. You can actually give yourself an infection by doing that, So, and I saw it happen on one guy. He had a little cut. He was an electrician, so of course, electrical tape. Did that, kept it wrapped for a couple of days with his electrical tape, came back, had to come into the clinic, and I just happened to be at this particular clinic. His finger was gangrene. They took it off at the second knuckle.
Oh, my God.
And he's an electrician, his index finger.
Oh, he needs that. Yeah, but 2 days, it can go gangrenous in 2 days? Wow.
You got to take care of wounds. So you got to think about that little wound, and that's what's going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the gunshots, the zombies, the horror. It's going to be you're out fixing a fence, or you're dealing with livestock, or you're working in your garden. You're going to have that little cut, and you go, oh, I've got it stopped. I'm going to go back to work. And you're not going to clean and manage that wound for a couple of days. It's going to get infected. Then that infection is going to get into your body. You're going to become systemic. In other words, it's going to go in your blood. Then it goes to your organs. Then you go into multi-system organ failure, and then you die.
Wow. Did you ever read 1 Second After? Are you? Yep. The protagonist in there, he's in the retirement home. Yep. He cuts his hand on something.
Yep.
And within a week, he's basically dead, passes
and it can happen quicker than that, 48 hours, something like that. Depending on how dirty that wound is and what gets in there. So having the equipment and having the Ed, take it easy. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, it's always good to have Ed.
Yes. Being able to clean it and debride that wound is very good. Preference for disinfectant. Alcohol, will it work? Yeah. It's going to hurt like hell if you pour that into a cut. Now, peroxide is much better. The problem is we don't want to do that long term because that can eat tissue away. Okay. All right. So iodine will work. Providine will work. But here's the other thing. What people don't think, they think, oh, we got to have something special. Tap water.
So I'm going to ask you now, because over the last few years, I've been hearing this more and more. So really, it's more important to clean it or get it flushed out than to put some sort of chemical on it to artificially kill things. Is that the idea?
So initially, yes, putting peroxide in it and stuff like that, because anything that's temporarily in there that you hopefully to kill it, but then you want to flush it and flush it, and you're going to clean it every day. Because what happens is you have an open wound, all right, and you're not closing it. There's going to be tissue that dies, outer tissue on the inside, in the layers of your skin on the inside that's going to die. You're going to have to debride that. So that flushing and cleaning each day takes away that dead skin, basically, dead tissue. Because that dead tissue, if it sits in there, what's it going to turn to? Bacteria.
Right. Okay.
An infection. So that's why you're cleaning and flushing it. We're taking the old bandage out. We flush, clean it out, do all that, put a clean, wet dressing in. And what happens is slowly that will close from the inside out. And you'll start noticing you're using less and less wound packing. You're packing that wound every day, but what you're doing is you're getting it wet before you, a wet to dry dressing, which means wet dressing on the inside, a dry dressing covering it.
Okay.
To cover to keep contaminants out. But you can use water, treated water that we all have, that if you're on a utility type public water system, treated water, they have discovered, is just as effective as using sterile saline, all those things. There's no difference. They did a study of Baltimore shock trauma. They couldn't tell a difference between two wounds.
So how do you know how much to flush a wound?
A lot. More than what you think.
Okay. It's like flushing your eyes, right?
Water, copious amounts. And what you're looking at, you're looking inside the wound. It should look like a medium rare steak. You want pink tissue. You want to be able to see pink tissue. If you see a little bit of blood, just like surface blood and stuff, that's okay. You've got those capillary beds in there that may bleed a little bit. That's okay. All right. But what you don't want to see is gray tissue. Anything that looks dead. Red is good. Dark is bad. That's what you want to look at. Gray, black, anything like that is bad. And you may have to pull some of that or cut some of that tissue off. And I teach that. That's one of the things I do in class. So when I say more advanced wound care, it is because you're doing a lot more in this for prolonged care. So are you prepared of that in your med kit? Do you have the syringes to flush the wounds? The proper type of syringes? Do you have the small scissors and tweezers or basically forceps to debride a wound with? Do you have the Q-tips and things like that to go in there and maybe scrape some of that tissue off?
Some of the stuff that most of us don't even know why it's in our first aid kit.
And that headlamp will come into so you can see the wound. Light up what you're looking at, what you're working on.
Makes sense. Well, Mr. Peoples, we killed an hour and a half and a little bit, and that was the end of the questions. Nobody else threw any up there, but I said this last time, but we're going to have you back again.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, it doesn't take you very long to fill in an hour and a half with absolute top-notch content, brother. This was fun.
Oh, always. I love coming on here, and I'm always usually when you have a live, I always try to at least pop in for a minute. If it's hard to keep up with everybody's content.
I know it is. You know? I don't expect. There's just too much. I know it is what it is, and that's okay, right?
Yeah,
that's
but I always try to come in with yours because you've always got great people on, just learning so many different things, and I want to learn. Just like anybody else, I want to learn as much as I can from anything. One of my favorite episodes you've had is with Jake Drum when he was on.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, he does a great job, but you get a lot of good, wide variety of people. And then I was seeing all the stuff you posted today of the upcoming episodes, and I was like, yep, I'm putting this in my phone, so I can listen to it.
I'm gonna, you know what? Just since we're talking about this, and I haven't mentioned this to anybody yet, but if there's someone out there that somebody recommends for situational awareness, I haven't had anybody on, so just put it out there if anybody's thinking somebody I could reach out to, because that's something I've been wanting to just follow up a little more. So how do people support you, Chuck? Because that's what's important in our community.
I've got a website. It's AppalachianMedicalSolutions.com. You can get a hold of me there through email. My email is chuck@appalachianmedicalsolutions.com. I'm on all the social media. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a few videos out. That's Chuck Peoples, Appalachian Medical Solutions. I've got TikTok. I've got, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm on Facebook. If you have a hard time finding me, look for me on lives with special operations equipment, or Tim here, or, Jack, or whatever it is, Nicole. I'm out there. You could find me and email me. We can have a conversation. If you're not even sure what medical equipment you need, or if you want to upgrade, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to talk. You don't have to buy it from me. We can just have a conversation, but I can build you a kit. We can talk about classes. If you have a group of people who wants a class, doesn't matter what type of experience you have. I can teach from somebody who can't put a Band-Aid on, up to somebody who's had multiple classes. So we can do all that, and I'll be more than happy, and I'll come to you to do it. I'm traveling, been to several places here the last few months, several different stage teaching classes. So we'll come to it. Just as, if it's out west, it's going to cost you a little more. That's more travel time. But
it's worth every penny.
Yeah, but we can do it, and help you any way I can. Just reach out.
Perfect. For everybody still listening, I put Chuck's Instagram and YouTube links in today's description. So make sure you give him a follow, because he's got some good content over there. But thanks, Chuck. If you want to hang in the back for a second, I will close up and I'll be right back with you, brother.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Thanks, Chuck. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I could talk to, Chuck in general, or specifically, and first aid. I love to pick people's brains on first aid and emergency medical care, because it's something that I've just never had a lot of access to, I guess, specifically. So it's great. I love being able to ask the experts in here. I know Chuck says he doesn't like to call himself an expert, but we call him an expert because he knows his shit. So make sure you support him. AppalachianMedicalSolutions.com, and go to all the places on all the socials and give him some love. So, guys, with that, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.